Hey guys, today I'm going to talk a little bit about financial freedom, define it, and what it means to me and what it could mean to you. Okay, so first, let's just go with the basic definition of financial freedom, which is to have enough money or monthly income to pay for our living expenses in perpetuity, or in other words, for the rest of time, for the rest of our lives. Okay, so why achieve financial freedom, and why I believe you should be interested in seeking financial freedom or financial independence. Number one, most of us have a 9 to 5 job. So we wake up every Monday through Friday, go to work, and why do we do this? So we can obviously contribute to work or society and take the money we make to pay for our living expenses and pay for our family's living expenses and so forth. Now, the number one stressor in most of your lives is probably money, and making sure we have enough money coming in each week or each month to pay for those expenses. But not just that, we want to spend our free time doing things that we enjoy, right? So whether it be hobbies, vacationing, traveling around the world, spending time with your kids, whatever it may be, a lot of those things cost money. So let's just think of a scenario here. If money wasn't the number one stressor, and you didn't have to focus on that 9 to 5 job to produce the money so you can pay for all these living expenses, what would that mean for you? So financial freedom is the best way to achieve it is investing in things like real estate that pay you monthly cash flow, monthly dividends, playing in the stock market, and figuring out a way to subsidize what you're already making at your 9 to 5 job, enough that it can pay for all of your living expenses. Now imagine the risk. We have this nice secure job. We think it's not risky, to slowly invest in things like a 401k and not save and invest in things like real estate that can pay us those monthly, dividends or cash flow. What if we lose that 9 to 5 job? And we're stuck with all of our bills. We still have our mortgage payment or monthly rent costs. We still have a car payment. We still have mouths to feed if you have kids, schooling expenses, and the list goes on. So just imagine if you had the security of having passive income, or somewhat passive income that could free up your time and, most importantly, free up your stress. Now you may have a job that you really enjoy, waking up and going and going to work every day, and that's great. But a lot of people, either dislike or despise their jobs enough that if money wasn't the sole driving factor, they probably wouldn't do that job every day. Me personally, I enjoy my job, but I'd be lying to you if I said I wouldn't rather be doing other things that I really enjoy doing. If I'd much rather be outside, camping, hiking, fishing, traveling around the world with my wife, doing all these cool things that really excite me and really bring me, intrinsic, satisfaction. So again, I'd be lying to you if I said I would rather be going to work every day, working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. So that's why we began investing in real estate, because we want to at least have less stress going to our day jobs. And maybe sometime in the future, if we build up enough, income, passive income, rental income from rental properties, that we can, have the option to do something else with work, or maybe we want to turn a hobby or a passion into work, to where it's not, surrounding money and creating income from that, hobby or passion. Think about how much more productive and how much more you would enjoy it, right? So outside of stress and monthly bills, again, touching on hobbies, how many of you have lost sight of what you used to do as a kid that you probably still would enjoy doing? Again, for me, it was doing things outside, right? Fishing, hunting, hiking, camping, all sorts of stuff. And to tell you the truth, I used to do all that stuff, fishing and hiking. I used to go 3 to 5 times a week. I've been less than 3 times in the past 12 months. And that's kind of sad to me, because I don't have the time or energy to go do these things, and maybe I don't have the money to pay for these activities and such. So think about having that extra cash flow. It would allow you to free up your time and money as well, to where you don't have to worry about as much. If you have a family, or if you want to start a family someday, think about, you no longer have the 9-to-5 job. You're able to spend and focus all your time stress-free, not worrying about money, with your kids, spending more time with them, seeing them grow up, being at every sporting event, being at every school play, and the list goes on. But time is one thing that we don't get back. And if we can figure out a way to buy ourselves more time and spend that time with the ones that we love, how important is that to you? Being in charge of your life and how you spend your time without the stress of money, that's what financial freedom really means to me personally. So let's talk about the steps to achieve financial freedom, because y'all are probably sitting there thinking, well, that sounds great, right? But how do I get there? And yes, eventually we need to invest in income streams such as real estate or stocks or dividend paying stocks or other forms of passive income. But first and foremost, if you do not have a budget, a personal budget or a family budget, tracking your personal cash flow, the money inflows and money outflows, you need to set one up today. And we'll do a whole separate video on how to set up a budget and how I've set one up and how my wife and I track our money. But until you set up a personal budget, you will not be able to successfully track cash flow in a real estate business that you could start, or really any other investments that you do. Another thing that you need to do is, track how much debt you have, whether that be a car payment, student loan debt, if you have debt in your house like most people do when they first buy a house and have a monthly mortgage payment, how much interest are you paying on those loans, and are any of them unnecessary? So another thing I heard earlier today that I thought was really interesting is how people view debt, how investors and business owners view debt versus how employees or people who use debt to spend money, right? So the big difference is the people over here are using debt to spend money. Think credit cards. I want to go on this nice vacation that I can't afford, but I'll use a credit card and I'll pay it back later, and I'll pay an absurd interest rate of 10 to 25%. Okay? And over here, the investor side, you're using debt, you're leveraging the bank's money for your investments that are going to pay you monthly. Okay, so think about a rental property we talked about in a couple previous videos. You borrow money from the bank. Let's say you put down, again, I'll just use the example that we used in the previous video because they're even numbers, $100,000 of your own money to buy a $500,000 house. You're leveraging $400,000 that you don't have, that's going to in turn pay you somewhere between $10,000 and $30,000 a year in cash flow. Okay, so how do we view debt and how do we leverage debt in a good way versus paying additional money for things that we may or may not need? Okay, so next is utilizing our budget. Once we get a hold of money inflows and money outflows, we need to set up a plan to save X amount of dollars each month to achieve our end goal. How much money do we need to invest in Apple stock? How much money do we need to invest in a rental property? Once we figure out how much money we need, then we could start figuring out how to accumulate that money. So we first start with how much we can save. What expenses can we cut out? Are we eating out, drinking on the weekends too much, going to happy hours, coffee shops? How much money do you spend at Starbucks? I know people that get Starbucks every day, sometimes twice a day. That could be anywhere from $2 to $5 a drink. That could end up being $25 a week, $100 a month right there that you could save if you cut out your daily Starbucks run and make coffee at home. It might not taste as good, but having an extra $100 a month tastes pretty good. Okay. Shopping for clothing or shoes. I'm sure there's streaming services. There's all sorts of things that we can probably cut out that we don't need, and at least for the time being, to save up money to invest in ourselves and invest in our future, to where we don't have to stress about this stuff in 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Are you living in a place where you're paying rent and you're close to the city? It might be nice, but you could probably rent somewhere, 5, 10 miles further outside of the city. It might make your commute a little longer, but what would saving $500 to $800 a month in monthly rent do for you? You start adding all these things up, and Who knows? You could be saving up to $1,000 a month. Is your car too expensive? Do you have a car payment? Maybe you bought, like I did, one of the biggest mistakes I did was buy a dream truck that I always wanted. It was the best and worst thing I ever did. I love that thing, but it taught me how to use debt incorrectly, okay? And my monthly insurance and my monthly car payment was wild, and I paid it off as fast as I could, which was good, but I ended up trading it in for a much more affordable car, using the money I got in the trade-in to actually furnish my first rental property. So I started using that money for things that are going to pay me. That's an asset versus spending extra money on a liability, right? And the last thing we could do is figure out a way to make more money, okay? A lot of you are saying, okay, maybe I can't save $100, $200 a month. But if you're young, don't have kids, or maybe you have a spouse and kids, maybe you could take turns, working a side hustle in the evening hours on the weekends. I know it's not fun, it's not how we want to spend our time, but you could do all sorts of things. I mean, anybody can sign up for an Uber or Lyft account, okay, and go drive people around for 1 to 3 hours a day in their spare time. And that money will add up over time. It's not going to be amazing, but if you could make a few $100 a month or maybe $1,000 extra a month, what could that do for you? You could save $5,000 to $10,000 in 1 year. In 2 years, then you could put that $20,000 towards a rental property that starts paying you more. And while you continue to side hustle and that extra rental or side income, now it starts accumulating and snowballing, and you can see how it grows over time. You could do simple things as find free items on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist and then resell them at a small price. I know people who have done this, and it's very tedious, but you can actually make a lot of money. But it's tedious. You have to really hustle. Something I did for probably about a year right out of college, I worked at a vineyard, and I was a sous chef and a bartender at the wine bar. And I actually made more money there than I did at my first job during the week on an hourly basis. Now, my first job led to where I am today because I knew it was an entry point into an industry that would pay well and something that I would enjoy. But that side hustle allowed me to save up, and unfortunately I spent a lot of that money on the truck. But looking back on it, I'm glad I did it, but I wish I had used that money again to invest in things like real estate or the stock market, which would have paid me, great dividends or great money on a monthly basis. You could bartend, you could wait tables, you could do all sorts of stuff. One thing that I found interesting, one of my friends got into, he's getting into real estate, but he's doing apartment locating as an entry point to real estate. You could do this on the side. If you know the local apartment market, you can learn it. And I've used an apartment locator a couple times, both in Dallas and Austin when I had moved there from North Carolina. And basically what you would do as an apartment locator is you get a feel for what an individual or a group of people are looking for in an apartment, what their budget is, and then you basically give them the list of apartments in the area that would be a good fit for them. You show them the apartments to the leasing management office, and if they end up signing a lease there, you typically get a month or 2 months rent payout from them. So it's a good way to earn commission on the side. Lastly, if you have a talent or skill, if you played sports growing up and you enjoy it, or, if you do photography or music on the side, what if you did music lessons for, kids or other people our age just looking to learn new things? You could sign up on Thumbtack or any of these other, even Airbnb experiences where you can provide an experience for someone, provide lessons, and they could pay you an hourly rate. There's all sorts of things that we can do to accumulate more money or save more money. So again, financial freedom, what would it mean to you? For me personally, it means freeing up my time and freeing up stress and reliancy on my day job and my spouse's day job. For us, it would allow us to travel more in the future. Think about if you didn't have to worry about how many hours of PTO you have a year. What if I use my PTO allotment on a 1 week's vacation, but I really want to go, do a week at the beach, in the summertime. It allows us to do what we want to do without having that added stress of time or how we spend our money. So that's financial freedom. That's what it means to me, and I think that's why you should seek to achieve it. Again, in the next video, we can talk a little bit about how to set up a budget and, again, break that down a little further. But that's all for today. If you like the video, throw me a like. If you want to see more content, get notified when I post a video, you're welcome to subscribe. But I appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.